Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? It is bright over here today. Happy Saturday. It is 8 o'clock a.m. It's actually 8:04. My bad, guys. Trying to get this technology together. So, this is our third session. We have been doing a series on Educate, Advocate, Act Together. I'm so excited that you are here. Lots of information to go over today. I'm actually exhausted. It's been a week, but so many things to update you guys on. So I'm Lolita E. Walker. I am your elected representative for District 9 on a school board for Prince George's County Public Schools. And if you have been here, then guess what? We have been talking Educate, Advocate, Act together. And we had a session on Educate, a session on Advocate, and a session today, our last piece on in the series on Educate, Advocate, Act Together, and how you can get involved. We have a meeting coming up for our last budget hearing on Thursday, and I'm going to talk about our latest amendments that we have, also give you a summary of where it is that we've been on this amazing journey. Super shout out to District 9 folks, and super shout out to everybody in the district that decides to join in and listen in. Throughout this session, you can definitely leave comments. And I also wanted to tell you all, someone asked me, like, how do you get on the screen with me? So you can be on the screen with me to have live dialogue. And the way that you do that is literally send an email and say, hey, I'd like to be on the screen with you so I can engage in some live dialogue. Is something that's interesting to me? Absolutely. And we'll make sure that you get that information. So you can send that to Tia. Let me just put that up on the screen really quickly. Tia and myself. So let me show you guys. Hold on. Tia 2 dot Johnson at pgcps.org. Okay. So here you go. Let me save that and show that to you guys so you can make note of that. Okay. So Tia 2 dot Johnson at pgcps.org and myself. And if you ever want to be here with me for any of the live chats, then just shoot a quick email and we can have the live dialogue right there. Alternatively, you can also type into YouTube and Facebook while we're live, and I'll try to answer those questions. If I don't know, you know me, I'll go back, find out the information, and put it into the newsletter. If you're not already getting the newsletter, you can get it here at bit.ly/District9News. Try to give you all of the things up front, and then let's get into it because we have a lot to talk about. If you haven't already seen the budget, right, for Prince George's County, if you haven't already seen the budget, this is where you can get it. But at this point, we've had a number of budget hearings. We've heard from a number of you all, from written comments, from oral comments, and they've been virtual. Our next one will be in person. Don't forget that this, let me get the date. I think it's the 27th, but let me make sure. What's Thursday's date? Where's my calendar? Yes, Thursday the 27th. Don't forget that it's at the Wayne Curry Administrative Building. Okay, so it's not at our regular location, it's at the Wayne Curry Administrative Building. So I want to do a couple of things today to make sure you all know how to sign up, how to do all of the things. Okay, so we don't run out of time on that piece. There's been a lot of questions about board docs. How do you get the agenda? How do you get the documents that we'll be using? Where do you go for that? So I'm going to show that in a second. I want to make sure you have everything you need. Okay, let's get through. Let me first show you board docs. Okay. Now, one would think I had this stuff up for you guys before. All right. So let me share my screen. Share screen. Entire screen. Okay. Okay, here we go. So this is what board docs looks like. Okay. When you go in, you'll see right now, you'll go in and it's just go.boarddocs.com. Okay. Go.boarddocs.com. Let me type that in so those that are going to look back at this will be able to see it. Hold on a second. Go.boarddocs.com. Okay. I hope this is the right one for the public though. This is how I go in. If you're looking and it doesn't work on your computer, let me know and I'll sign out and try to just go from the public view. Okay. So in the meeting section, you'll see this. Okay. So it'll say we have a board business meeting that is at 5:30. And that's when and then at 7 o'clock is where the regular meeting happens. So when you click inside of here, now this is on the main page. When you click inside of here, you'll see February 27th. And that's what we want to look at. And we want to view the agenda. Okay. All right. So when we view the agenda, you'll see the agenda to the left-hand side. All right. And next, what you can also do, I go here. So if you want to take a look at what we'll do, we'll have, all right, call to order. So this starts the public meeting. Okay. First is our executive board session. So then we call the meeting to order. It tells you what the agenda is overall. We have the minutes. So if you see a little document piece right there, you can click on it and see what's there. Okay. We're going to have, oh, listen, we're having PGCPS spotlight. We're going to be spotlighting because District 9, we will be spotlighting Fort Washington Elementary School. I'm so excited about that. They have a BizTown program for financial literacy. And so we will have some time to be able to spotlight them. So congratulations, you guys. Really excited about the work that you're doing. We're doing so much amazing work over here. There'll be an unsung partner and a community shout out. Oh, the community shout out is for BizTown. The PGCPS spotlight is from the administration. I'm not sure who the unsung partner is, but we'll all be surprised. All right, let's keep on going. Where I'm trying to get to also is that Camp Schmidt. So, Camp Schmidt is in District 9, but it services all of the county. Okay, so that's there. All right, but what I really wanted to get to, you guys, is to make sure that you can get into this file. So this was the proposed budget amendments, and you click on it and it tells you from all of the amendments that we talked about, these are the ones that are going to be discussed on Thursday. Okay. They're being rediscussed on Thursday. So they didn't get a vote. They didn't get a vote of yes, they weren't withdrawn, but we needed additional information. And so these are the ones that you can absolutely talk about on Thursday. You can talk about all of them, but these are the ones that we are going to be voting on that night. Strategy, offices merger. I'll tell you a little bit more about these. Renaming of schools, Office of Integrity and Compliance. There's two aspects of that, which is aligning employee salaries. So there was a discussion that was had, the original one that was put in, there was a lot of discussions around if it's legal to, the original one was to, I'm going to say defund, but to defund it. And the legal advice was that does not fall within the law. We have a law to have this. And board member Boozer Strother, who put that in, said, you know what, I have a compromise. My compromise for that is to align the employee salaries with PGCPS salaries. And as we had that discussion, the question was, we want legal counsel to be there to be able to talk to that. So that will be talked about. Then there's this aspect that I introduced, this next one here, and I asked for it to be broken out because those are two separate ones. But this one here about postponing the budget enhancements. So the Office of Integrity and Compliance is requesting, I feel like it's $204,000 this year for another person. And it's not necessarily because it's this office. It's more about when you take a look across the budget, we do have a deficit and we need to pull everywhere to try to do that. So my recommendation and proposal was, what if we freeze that for this year and then be able to recoup that $204,000? That's an opportunity. And there's a lot of other opportunities that you'll see within there. So that's what this piece right here is. And so the reason that it wasn't voted on is because, again, for the legal counsel perspective, the way that the bill is written and what the legal counsel statement pretty much said is that this law is so that you fund it. So we'll have some discussions on that. Okay. And reduction of travel we're going to talk about, and then central office, a discretionary fund. Those really should be two. They got kind of lumped into one. I put in the amendment around central office discretionary funds to reduce that by 10% across the board for everybody, just so we can recoup some money there. Okay. So when you click on this link here, where it will take you is to this document. And what this document is And I will request that it be updated to only include the ones that were not withdrawn, so that you see the ones that were approved and then the ones that were that we're going to be talking about, which probably will make it a little easier for you so you don't have to go through all of these. Now, the way to read this sheet is that you see the, can you see this? Let me see. Okay. The way to read this sheet, one second, I can see some comments here. Sorry, guys, didn't see you over there. Let's say, okay. So, hey, Candace Perkins. Candace Perkins is at Frederick Douglass High School. She said it is. I was there yesterday. I could see the agenda also. Awesome. Thank you so much for that confirmation. I really hope everyone looks at these amendments. Yes. And provides testimony. Yes. We're going to talk about that too, because the increase doesn't make sense for those enhancements. We'll talk about that in a second. And yes, we cannot afford it. This. Yes. Right. So, as you know, our let me change the banner at the bottom. Okay. In Maryland, we have a $3 billion deficit. Okay. At the school level, we had a $37 million deficit. Well, good news happened on a call. If you haven't seen it, I'll show you how to get to it. The link, you can just go online and look at the last budget hearing. And the administration said, listen, we've done a lot of work in between funds that's coming in and where we've reduced costs, increased revenue, and where we've reduced costs. We actually feel as though we found the 37 million. However, we are going to look at these amendments and recommendations from everybody, because likely what could happen is that these amendments that I'm showing you right now, some of them actually add money to the to our budget. So we now have to make up for that. And then when we send the budget over to the council, because we've added even like the increase to request that the OIC, for instance, be funded by the county, they don't have to say yes to that. So in the event that they reduce our budget, then we got to come back for the reconciliation of that. And that's normal. That's just normal process. And if you follow the budget in Prince George's County any other time, then you know that it always happens. And then we have to go back and cut some things. So even though there were votes to approve some of these amendments, in the reconciliation process, it could be, hey, we're not going to be able to fund some of these amendments because we then have to go back. I hope this is making sense to people. Okay. So what you see on the screen here, in the way to read the sheet when you go again, I'm going to request, let me write that down, just request an update on the sheet so that you're only seeing those. And maybe they can break it down between those that were withdrawn, those that were approved. And just so you know, approval for the board means that there's 6 board members who have voted to move this forward. So therefore it's a majority and we move forward. Okay. So when you see things that's approved, at least 6 at the minimum have voted in favor of something. Okay. All right. Got it. Request an update for the sheet. Let me just write that down. And I want to see it broken down into what was approved, withdrawn, and postponed. Okay. That way it's just a little easier for you all to be able to focus on where your attention goes, because the goal is that you actually look at this information, because it's really important, and that you go through and see what is most important to you. Where do you want to see your advocacy? How can we act? District 9, step up and show up. Remember, it's going to be at Wayne Curry. Okay. So the way to read the sheet, because I also want to get into some other things. This is the amendment. Okay. The division that it affects, which board member kind of sponsored the original so we can have the discussion. The original amount of the amendment that was assumed, and then when it got validated, what it was, and then if there's FTEs that's impacted, okay? And then what you can also see is what the response from the administration was. Let me give you an example. So for instance, one that I put in was, everything I put in was really a reduction because to help us to get to where we need to get to. So just so you know, the one was the elimination of the chief of communications position, for instance. And you didn't even see this show up in our budget hearing because when they went back to look at it, they recognized that it was an error in the original budget that was written. Okay. But here's an example. I put that in for a reduction, a potential reduction of $317,000. Okay. So the way to read it is, this is what I said when I put it in. Hey, remove this because it exists in multiple places. Okay. And you can see that the response, because the administration then goes in to respond to it too. Okay. They say, subsequent to the publishing of the budget book, it was eliminated as of January 1st. And then they created this associate superintendent for communications, which is not a chief position. Therefore, it shouldn't have been written as the chief of communications inside of the budget book. So they didn't bring that forward. But that's an example of how to look at it. Another thing I want to share with you all as you go through this, which I noticed in the meeting, if you watch the meeting, is that there's some places, for instance, the removal of, this is one because it has my name on it too, removal of OIC from budget. Right? It says Boozer, Strother, and Walker. Okay. And that's at $1.8 million. So what happened here is that what they did was take a look at what the themes were. Okay. And then they kind of lumped them together so we could talk together. But when you take a look at this, I'm going to open it up. Hopefully you can see it. Let me make it a little larger. Whoa, that's really big. You should really be able to see it. Hold on. Okay. So when you go into it, what you'll recognize is that they were actually two separate amendments that, because of the theme, the title, the administration lumped it into one so we could talk it as one. So I've actually asked this one to be pulled out as two different ones so we can have that conversation. So when you see things that are a slash, like I have one with Dr. Moss and it says / Walker, those were two separate amendments that, because of the title, they grouped for efficiency. So you got to make sure you go in and see what your specific board member is recommending. And then you can talk to them about it or get more information, etc. Okay. Or you can watch the video and then you'll also have information, but tapping into them is also great. Okay. Next. So what board member Boozer Strother had recommended here, and then what I recommended here for the $204,000. Okay. Again, rewatch what I said earlier because there's some legal questions around this and whether it could be an amendment or not. But again, go through each one of these. You can go through the ones that actually are going to stay and be discussed. Let me talk about the ones that's going to be discussed. Hold on, guys. All right, hold on. So on board docs, you can see which ones are going to be further discussed. Let me try to share that with you guys. Do I still have board docs open? Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, great. So right here, strategy officers. I swear I wrote this down. Okay. Strategy offices merger, renaming of schools, Office of Integrity, and reduction of travel. So let's look at those, okay? All right, let's go back in here. So the first one, the strategy offices merger. Let's get into it. Strategy. Here it is. Why are we retalking that one? Oh, okay. So this one right here was introduced by, there's a lot of discussion on this, guys. So you could look back at the video, but there was a suggestion to go ahead and merge this to drive increased dollar amount of saving $388,000. And as we talked about this, what the recommendation was to really take a look at the director's positions. And we got into this discussion of, should we really be talking about positions or should we really give it to the manager or the chief of that division to be able to go in and you say, hey, reduce by one, and they figure out how to effectively take a look at that. So in that discussion, we talked about where redundancies lay, et cetera. So you could take a look back at that to get all of the juicy discussion on that piece right there. But where we ended up was taking a look inside of that department to have a reduction. Okay. So that's an example of what is one thing that's coming back to be talked. Okay. The next thing that's coming back to be talked is the renaming of schools. So this is a $10 million amendment. Oh, 12 million. I'm sorry. $12 million amendment. And the details inside of the discussion are things like what goes into the naming of a school. So let me go back to give you all some reference. This was put in by Chair Jackson, and he does on the discussion talk about the fact that a number of our schools have slave owners' names, or those who have been here it is right here. Describe how this amendment. Where is it? So when you go in here, I'm not going to go through all of them now, but you can see, describe what related activities are occurring in the schools, et cetera. But I'll tell you where the discussion went. Let me see if they put it in here. So it needs additional research. And what the superintendent said is, hey, I recognize this is a huge cost. I recognize that this is really important to our county to be able to do, but this needs to be over a phased approach because it is extremely high cost. And I think operations was able to talk to all of the stuff that is included in here. So school signage, electronics, it's not just renaming a school and changing the name on a school. It's actually doing all of the things in the branding that goes along with it. Hence the $10 to $12 million that is associated with it. Okay. So clearly it can't all be done in one phase. And you can take a look back at the overall discussion to see where that is. I'll tell you that in general, I am a fan of renaming our schools. What I do recognize also is that, for instance, Brandywine, the new Brandywine Academy, that's not the name of it, you all. That's just what it's called now until the school naming process happens. But it is a combination for us in District 9, a consolidation of Baden Elementary School, Brandywine Elementary School, and Gwen Park Middle Schools. So each of those names will no longer exist, for lack of a better word. Okay. And now those schools in a consolidation process will go through a naming process, will now have a new name. And all of that, because it's being built, will now be integrated into the overall cost of the project. Okay. Makes sense? Okay. So let me go now to Candace said, let me see. She said the recording video hasn't yet been posted. Yeah. She says the renaming of school suggestion needs to be scrapped. So let me tell you all this as well, because you all, thank you for saying that, because the public looking has an opportunity to have a voice. In each of my newsletters, I always say, you all have a voice. You can sign up for testimony. You can sign up for written comments, oral comments. You can even leave a video comment. And now is the time to really give your input on where our dollars are going for our scholars. How can we get closer and closer to our scholars where our dollars are going? And what considerations should the board and administration have as we go to talk these and approve these things? But I do think it's up online. I'm gonna tell you, let me see. I just looked at it this morning. Not looked at it, I didn't see the whole thing, but yeah, see right here. Here it is. Let me put it into the link. Hold on a second. Let me just, okay. That way you can have the link. Hold on a second. Banners. Yes, come on, engagement on this early Saturday morning, Miss Perkins. Thank you, girl. Let me I'm gonna rename it to say budget latest meeting, latest budget. Okay. Let's show it. Here you go. I mean, that's not the easiest to copy and paste right there. Oh, let me put it in a comment. latest budget hearing can be found on YouTube. Okay, let me know if you can see that. Did it? Yes, it went to YouTube. So you could click, let me know if it's clickable. Hopefully it is, but you can copy and paste from there as well. Another way to get to it is here. It should be here. So let's see if it's here. pgcps.org. And then you go to board. Oh, while we're here, how to participate in a board meeting or public comment. Okay. This is where you want to go. Okay. For Thursday, you can click right there. And then video live archives. Let's see if it's here. Video live stream. Oh, this is where you go for live stream. I didn't realize that. And archive board meetings. Let's check it out. Oh, look, it's clickable. They've updated this. This is great. Oh, this is why you said it's not there. Okay, but it's on YouTube. So let me write that note too to make sure that the website is updated. Thanks for that. Website updated on board page for the budget. Okay. I always take action items from here. Okay, got it. Thank you. Yes, it works. Perfect. Okay, so you all have access to that. Where were we? All right. Renaming of schools. Yes. So that's what we were saying, is that's where we got to. What we were saying is that it's important that you take a look at these amendments, especially the ones that are going to be discussed again, to say, hey, this is what I believe. This is why I believe it. This is the advocacy I want, because I like to see those dollars moved X places, because we really need to get closer to the scholars for all of the things. Okay. So go through the amendments page. And again, I'm going to reach out to try to see if we could get that organized a bit differently. Let me see what else you said on here. Okay, let me see. This one says, in this current financial environment with schools still not having heat, proper security coverage, rodents, etc., our board members really should be focusing on what's inside of the buildings. So absolutely. I can't say more. The maintenance dollars. So I know that as we continue to advocate for additional funding, maintenance dollars are really important. I just got a note, so let me acknowledge that one, about Surrattsville, lights outside and lights at the outside on the field. And I will be putting that forward to the administration to take a look at. So I did receive that email the other day. I think I got back to you, but if not, then I will today. Okay. And make sure that we get that over to the administration for that request. I will tell you that when I was, I remember how dark it was at Surrattsville when I was campaigning. It was very dark. I think that the lights had been fixed since that time. That was December 2022 when I was elected, but I will put that request out because it seems like we need to get back over there and take a look at it. Okay. Next is, okay. Yeah. So Ms. Perkins also said some of those schools are included in the new consolidation. Yes. I think you were talking about renaming at this time. So the 3 schools I mentioned, yes, those, the names, I think you were talking about names at that point. Those names will be gone and leveraged inside of the new naming process for the new Brandywine Academy. Okay. I think you did say that because you said exactly. All right. I'm a little late with the comments. Okay. Now we're going to go to, I just talked to you all about the Office of Integrity and Compliance that we're going to be talking to. I told you about both of those. We broke those out. And then the second one, the last one is a reduction of travel central office. Okay. Now that one will say Moss Walker on it. However, again, those are 2, and that's a huge reduction as looking at it right here. We are going to be talking that again. Let me make it a little larger for you all. Okay. So these were two separate amendments, but again, just like the OIC, these were brought together because of the theme of it. Okay, so it's still two separate ones that we'll be kind of looking at individually. Is the first one was to implement a 50% reduction of non-essential travel across the offices, and it was amended. We should also probably let me put that down too. We should probably put the amended language in there too, so that the public can know what exactly we're going to be looking at, because it's slightly different than this here. He actually want some of the administrative, that's why the discussion is so good to watch, because some of the administrative feedback was, we don't want to impact our teachers as well. And he's like, absolutely, we don't want to impact our teachers. So I want to take out the professional development piece for our teachers on that aspect as well. Let me take off your name off of here real quick. I'm going to put this is how you get to board docs for those who need to see the agenda. Okay, got it. So look at that discussion, because the what we're going to be talking about is a little slightly different than what's on here. And then, as proposed by, I made this recommendation to across all central offices to reduce the discretionary budget by 10%. And that discussion right there was around Lisa Howell, who's the CFO, talked to us about, hey, we've already reduced the discretionary fund. And her concern was, we don't want to keep on reducing it, because that's money that we'll need to be able to supplement, and we don't want to bankrupt it. But when they went to look at the reduction of the $37.3 million that was a deficit, they took out some of the discretionary funds already. So we'll be talking about that one more time and then voting on it again. One thing that was asked that they will come back, which is why it's going to be talked again, is because what was asked is, it's amazing that you found a $37.3 million. Like, we're super excited about that, right? Show us where you found it. Right? It's good to have a plan, but really help us to understand, where did you really find the money? Because that's important. Where were the cuts? How do we see it? So again, that was a combination of revenue and cuts that the administration found, like redundancies and all the things. So where is this revenue stream that's coming in that we found? Great, but where is it? What is it? And then where are the cuts and the redundancies? Like, where are they? So one of the things that I had talked about, also, since we're talking District 9 real quick, I want to show you all the ones I put in. And hold on. And the other one was, I think I did 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I did 5. But I think it's the board. Okay, it's this one right here. Oh, there was one I did for board member reduction. So to reduce, each board member gets a line item every year. And so it was to reduce by 500, everybody's by 500, and that passed right away. We didn't really have discussion on it. We just reduced it by $500, and everybody was aligned to that. Okay, this right here was one of the amendments I put into. All right, the communications department has these 22 FTEs, okay? But the budget office, the board office needs communication, a communications position there. And the reason that that's important, I can tell you, we do need one. From my perspective, I remember being a chair and a vice chair, and as the chair, just really working a lot of time writing press releases or responding to news outlets or making sure like our story was getting out, but it takes time to do that. So this person, when they come in, will do things like all of those, but also, what does communication look like for the Board of Education? How are we getting information out to our public? What are our socials looking like? How are we communicating to the different aspects of our community in social spaces, on Facebook? How are we getting information out to people so that they can get it? Okay, so we do need somebody in that role. Now, the board office had originally said, hey, we need somebody, and it's going to cost, with all frills included, like benefits and all of the things, $183,000, $183,484. So I said, well, what about, can we do a contractor position for that and reduce it a bit? But then I said, well, guess what? There's 22 people over here doing very important work. What if we take one of those persons, one of those FTEs, and put it over here? Okay. So that now we're not using that 183, I'm gonna say $184,000. Okay. That's what this amendment is. And what Lisa Howell was saying is, well, it's really just kind of moving money around, because this has already been approved. Like this $184,000 has already been approved in a budget. So we probably don't need to do that. And I was like, well, I think we do. We should move an FTE over and then use that $184,000 to then go closer to our scholars. The opposition to that is from the administration, but the opposition of anybody could think is, why would we take out one of the FTEs that already exist inside of a role that's doing their role right now? Because we need one here. That's my argument, because we need one here. We have 22 here. I think we can be more efficient over here. And we can also use that $184,000 closer to our scholars. That's it. So if you agree, if you don't agree, either way, the discussion should be had, and you can come to the board meeting or you can write testimony in order to do this. But I just wanted to explain the ones that I, as your elected board member, put in. Okay. I think we talked through all of those. Again, go through them, but I'm taking an action item to request an update for the sheet so that you all can really know which ones were approved, which ones were withdrawn, and which ones were postponed, which we know to postpone, but put it on the sheet. And then the website updated, because Ms. Perkins was right. It's not updated with the last YouTube video, although you can get it from YouTube. And then amended language. Oh, to add in the amended language. Okay. All right. Let me stop sharing this screen. And let me talk to you all about what we've done to date. Okay. So yes, let me read this. I don't know. Okay. It says, yes, without added to the budget, streamlining the existing FTE skill sets, has the BOE considered interns to support? That's a good question. No, we haven't talked about interns to support. I think you mean like summer interns probably, or those that's maybe working at colleges to be able to, inside of the communication space. That's a great idea to be able to take a look at. I will send that there. I know that there is a need for somebody to just be really focused on it. So that is something good. I'll send that to the board office, okay, for consideration. All right. Okay, you were answering. Thanks. Our county is filled with graduates who are so passionate and talented, who can fulfill these roles and supports. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that also reminds me, anytime there is a position, one thing I could do probably a better job of is, well, for this one, we absolutely will make sure that we post it. But all of these will be posted, not just kind of filled with somebody. Okay. Okay. Love it. Okay. So for a summary, the first thing that we did when we had our first session, so this is our third session, we did educate. And that's when I had former board member Sonia Williams on, and we talked the budget, all things budget. And we talked about understanding the budget, our budget priorities, those 5 focus key areas, which you also want to keep in mind. That's why I'm going back on what we talked about, just to remind us of some things. The 5 key focus areas from the superintendent is literacy, mental health, multilingual learners, students with disabilities, and transportation. Okay, I'll put this up so you all will be able to see it. Okay. Next is, we talked community involvement. We talked constituents are always encouraged to ask questions, submit comments, especially during this budgeting process. So definitely get yourselves in there. Addressing the $37 million deficit. And we talked about how to advocate. In the second session that we had, when we talked about advocacy, I had Dr. Juanita Miller on, who's a former delegate and former chair of the Board of Education. She also is a resident of District 9. And we shared not only advocacy strategies, but also the legislative process and community engagement and how you all could get involved. So we talked about the framework of Educate, Advocate, Act. We talked about how laws are made. We talked about the 90-day session. I don't know if we talked about district nights, but most of the legislators have district nights where you can go out and meet your legislators. We talked about bills can start either in the House of Delegates or the Senate before moving to the governor for approval. Community members, there was a question on this. Community members are unable to propose bills, okay? But you can work directly with your elected officials to introduce the legislation. So something that's really important for you, whether it's education or roads or elderly or property taxes, all of those things, okay, all of them. I talked about key resources and websites like the House delegation site, the Senate site, the council site, the advocacy toolkit from PGCPS. It's so many resources that it could feel a little overwhelming, but we tried to break each and every one down. I did talk about things like 210 Indian Head Highway and Route 5. There's bills in to increase the fines for severe speeding limits, limit violations, and we know that those impact District 9. I testified for the 210 one because I drive 210 every single day. So that's an example of outside of education, there's so many other bills that's happening and that's being talked about inside of committees and going to the House and to the Senate to vote. And so get tapped in. And I know it's a lot, you all. It could be a full-time job during legislative season to really try to tap into all things, but choose what's most important to you and dig in that way. All right. We talked about engaging with your legislators, all of the things. So let's talk again about this February 20th meeting. We have the link up. Oh, I always keep your comment up by accident. Let me put the link up for, you know what? Let me put the link up for how to testify. Board of Education homepage. I showed you guys this a second ago, but let me just put the link in. Okay, let me put it in the comments. Here is a link to how to register for the Thursday final budget review. Okay. Okay. There you go. And we talked about the ones that we will be reviewing. We talked about how to get into the sheet to make sure you can read the amendments and understand even what your board member is proposing, why they are proposing it, what the administration has said based on those proposals. There was a piece in there, guys. I remember saying, hey, District 9, I'm talking directly to you. Take 9 challenge. Tell 9 people about what we're talking about today. Tell 9 people about signing up. If they can't come, no problem. They can send in letters, or you can write as a collective, whatever you want to do in order to get your voice out on what is most important to you and your community and our scholars, because it's bigger than District 9. It's bigger than your school. It's bigger than District 9. We have 133,000 scholars in Prince George's County, and everybody matters and everybody's impacted by the decisions that we make. Okay. So we want to make sure that that's there. All right, let me go back and see if I haven't said any other notes, which I'm sure. Take a look at how much money each amendment is adding or reducing from our budget. Remember that even though $37.3 million was found by our administration, kudos, and we'll get what that plan looks like at the next meeting. Pay attention to that. We know that in the reconciliation process, likely we're not going to get everything we even ask for in the budget that we send over, okay? Because why? For a number of reasons, but one primarily is that our state is in a deficit, which means we're in a deficit at the county level as well. Therefore, when it comes back, there's going to be some things that's in there now that has to be cut. So your voice is so important so that we can make sure that we're keeping in mind what's most important for our constituents at this level. Okay. All right. You know, your board members talk on behalf of the constituents. Okay. We not only live here. Let me talk District 9. I not only live here, I graduated from Gwen Park High School and Eugene Burroughs at the time, which is now into Acton-Keek Academy. But I also have a scholar that's at Acton-Keek Academy. It matters. We got neighbors, it's all of the things. We have constituents. And so those of you who write in, who talk about your concerns, but also are solutions focused, who say, hey, can you consider this? Who write in all of those things. When your board member says, I'm talking on behalf of my constituents, it's taking all of that into consideration. So whether it's me as your board member or you're looking on in this district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, when they say words like I'm talking on behalf of my constituents, make sure you're part of the constituent voice. Make sure you're adding in. Make sure you're writing to your board member on what's most important to you. Make sure you are with your PTAs and PTOs and you're talking about what's important. What about if your PTA sent a letter in and talked about this is what's most important as we see it as related to your budgeted items, or we see it's not just, we're talking budget now, but this is advocacy in action that happen for every board meeting, no matter what the topics are that we're talking about, the policies that we're talking about at the school level, school board level, and administrative levels. All of those things are so important. And I recognize that you elected me to be able to go through and do the things, but one person can't do it all. So we need the huge support of the community that's here to help with the voice that comes out on behalf of each of our districts. Okay, just wanted to make sure you all knew that. I will just really quickly talk about, let me see, the amendments that passed to give you an overview of them. One was the 3rd grade literacy lab pilot. And because you have up your own spreadsheet, I'm not going to pull that up again, but I'm just reading from a document that I have that I'll summarize and give to you guys. The 3rd grade literacy lab pilot was designed to improve reading proficiency by targeting interventions for struggling students. Now, this is something that has been tested in 2 of our schools, and the amendment proposed expanding it to additional locations. This was Dr. Moss from District 7 recommended this here to expand literacy in some of the underperforming schools that are in District 7. And it's a pilot now that already is within Prince George's County. So you'll see that there. He wants to expand it to get additional data on it. The aviation program continuation, that was to provide career CTE pathways for students interested in that. As we talked about this program, it already existed. And the discussion that we had was how do we get that into other populations? And it's something that's been going on for a while. So we talked that discussion there. Special education compliance liaison was withdrawn. The role was proposed to increase oversight and ensure compliance. It was withdrawn because that work is already existing within the academics department for special needs. And there was a robust discussion upon that as well. I think that was from board Vice Chair Briggs, Vice Chair of the board, but board member for District 2. And the expansion of Hillside HWSC program, that was to expand the mental health and student wellness support by adding services at Crossland High School and Thurgood Marshall middle schools. And it expands, it's already active in 5 schools. So one of the things that I would have you to consider is what those 5 target areas are, and these amendments, how do they tap into those 5, and how do they tap into our scholars? How do they tap into removing money so that more can go to our scholars, or tapping into what our critical needs are? So when you think about amendments, because somebody asked me this question too, I want to be mindful of time. We only got 7 more minutes. But when you think about amendments, these are amendments or modifications to the budget that was already proposed and approved. Okay. So as you go through it, it's not only to reduce, but it's also to enhance the programming. And we want to get money as close to our scholars as possible. So some of the discussions that you'll hear when you go back and listen while you're cooking or doing all of the things, because you can multitask, we're really good at it, is, what's the rationale and how do I get as close to my scholars as possible? So you'll hear some discussions on central offices, or what can we do in order to leverage like community engagement partnerships that we already have, or community partnerships department, community engagement. Are we leveraging those as efficiently and effectively as we can, so that then this money can go somewhere else? So the challenges of that. And so I encourage you that as you listen to it and you have your brainstorms, which I know are going to be good, because why? Because you're from District 9 and all of the things, is I want you to think about, how can we get closer to the scholars? What are some things that they can take into consideration? Is this an enhancement? Is it an investment? Because it could be, it's not a reduction. It is an investment inside of our scholars. Therefore, it's costing more money. And that might be okay, because we're going to, on a back end, be able to see that in our scholars. So everything is not a reduction out. Some will be increases or expansions, but then you ask yourself, well, what is that? Is that expansion helping based on the results that we've seen thus far? Okay, let's try to get through all of them. We had the LAYC promoter pathway. That's the expansion of the Latin America Youth Center pathway. It helps at-risk students stay on track academically. I did ask a question on that one about how this program, which I think is a good program, was selected at the school. I think it was Oxon Hill High School. And it's been an ongoing relationship that they've had for years and years and years that seems to work very well for that population. That's District 8. Grant expert role was pulled as well, as because of the duplication of efforts, although the grant management assessment was withdrawn. When I say pulled, it was withdrawn off the table, not being discussed anymore. But what we did talk about in that section was the fact that we know we need increased revenue. So grants drive increased revenue for us, and it helps our scholars, especially our most vulnerable scholars, in a lot of ways. Now, because you were here for the budget discussion, then you know that there are some grants. I won't show you the book, but I have my budget book right here. But you know that there are some grants that are really focused on certain areas, right? I think one of the ones that I talked about, and it has to be, some of the grants are really dedicated to those. So if there's a homeless, for our homeless population, right? Those students, if there's a grant that specifically is for that, that is what we have to absolutely use that for, okay? So as we go, we talked about Congressman Ivey always talks about his grants office. And I remember that a number of board members went to Congress in order to advocate on the advocacy day. And I know that District 5, Robin Brown, is working on a grant. Well, she's working on a grant where some of her constituents started working on a grant, and she was really interested to know how Congressman Ivey's office could help with that. And I thought that that was so super dope, because the constituents, I believe, started working on this. And so she started working with them on it. And now she's leveraging her position to say, how now can we get help? And she was able to make that connection there. I'll tell you that in District 9, Gwen Park Middle School, Principal Hall does a great job at getting grants. And he has a couple of programs. I think he has a robotics program right now. Shout out to Gwen Park Middle School, Principal Hall. You're doing great work over there, Principal Terrell Hall. He has a grant, and they have robotics after school. I feel like they have culinary after school too, based off of a grant, but I know they have mentorship programs, programming for girls that my Alpha Kappa Alpha chapter in District 9 supports that one there. And they were doing that before I joined the chapter, y'all. So I don't know. Don't write and say, oh, you're making it happen only in District 9. No. They were already doing that before I transitioned over to that chapter. They're doing really good work. Alpha, Alpha, Sigma, Omega. Okay. Grants management. We just talked about that. Reduction of central office discretionary budgets by 10%. That was my request and amendment. We'll be talking about that. And the goal really there was to prioritize classroom spending. There were some concerns on that, and I talked to you all about it, about already operating with minimal discretionary funds. So being really careful on, although you want to pull money, be really careful on pulling even more money, because we're going to need that on the back end. So we'll have some discussions around that. And I think that's it, you guys. I'm going to go over one more time the ones we're talking about on Thursday: renaming of our schools, Office of Integrity and Compliance, aligning the reframed version that our board member Boozer Strother left with was really aligning the employee salaries with PGCPS salary scale, and if that's going to fall within the legal criteria of what the law says for this particular mandate. The Office of Integrity and Compliance, as you all know, is a law. It's a mandate from for PGCPS. So we do have that, and working within that, we need to make sure that we're upholding the law. Absolutely. But we also want to see, it is an office that we pay for. So we want to see if there's any flexibility in there and what needs to be true for us to be able to also look at this office as something that we can apply, whether it's 10% or anything like that on. So that's that recommendation. And then the next was postponing budget enhancements of the $204,000, et cetera. And you all know that I think I shared that with you all already, that there is a bill, HB 390, now that has enhancements to the Office of Integrity and Compliance for increased accountability, transparency that Delegate Jamila Woods has introduced. So I implore you to also think about that. I think I put it in the newsletter too, but it's HB 390. Okay, so take a look at that. And the goal there is to not defund the office, but the goal is to take a look at the office structure as it is right now, because we all want to find fraud, waste, and abuse absolutely in Prince George's County. We want to pull it out because that will only help us to get more efficient and to give more money to our scholars where it really belongs, to pull it out of the system. So that's what that office is set up to do. However, we want to make sure that the duplicative nature as well as accountability, the public has an opportunity to weigh in on work plans, risk assessments, all of the things. You all go and look at it, because advocacy looks like understanding what it is that's the board priorities, as well as how then we can not only talk about it at the school board level, but then we can go out and talk to our legislators, so our council persons, our delegates, and our senators. In one of my newsletters, I feel like it was the last one, the last two actually, it had all of our delegates, our senators, and our council person in there. It had all their email addresses. It had our board priorities in there. It had PGCPS's priorities in there. And I really should do a session on, we're halfway through legislative session, honestly. And I probably should do a session on letter writing. I'm going to try to add it, y'all, but you all have so many resources out there, leverage your PTAs and all of the things, but I'm happy to pull together some drafts of what might be important to you. Okay. Based on what I've heard. Okay. Kelly Kell, let's see what you said. Hello. They have an amazing trailblazer program that includes robotics. Oh, is this for Gwen Park Middle? Okay, Trailblazer program that includes robotics, reading and math assistance, and culinary arts. It's a great, and it's free. I know. When I found out about it, I was so excited about it, and it came from a grant. And the principal found this grant. That's why it's so important. PTAs, PTSOs, working with your principal, like principals that's all in and engaged, just getting money. And I will tell you something else Principal Hall did. Shout out to Principal Hall. We had the Brandywine Academy in-person discussion. So we had an in-person community summit, you all. For those of you all were there, thank you for coming out. Then we had the virtual one the next day where over 140 people called in. It was a really good session. You asked your questions, voiced your concerns. Go back and take a look at it. Oh, I'll put the link out today. Okay. Or let me commit by Monday, y'all. I'm going to try to put it out today. Anyway, Principal Hall said, someone asked a question about, why isn't this a specialty school? It's being built. It has all the bells and whistles. Why isn't it a specialty school? And as we were talking it, he said, listen, it doesn't need to be specialty because we bring the special in. I told him he should get a t-shirt. We bring the special in. And he started talking about these programs and these grants. And I had known because I visited school not too long ago for a program. I forget what the program was, but he's doing some amazing things over there. So that is so good. Trailblazers, yes, at Gwen Park Middle School. Thanks, Principal Hall. So make sure y'all tell Principal Hall that we talked about him a couple times over here. And he had somebody here talking about how good. Kelly Kell is over here talking about how good this program is. So make sure you tell him, Miss Kelly Kell, okay? And then we have Candace, who said, thank you for taking time to use this platform to continue to actively engage and educate as we are working. Come on, District 9. Take 9, okay? Look at these amendments, guys. Look at these amendments. See what makes sense, what you want to push on, what you want to support. How can I best support you as your District 9 representative, we're going to do it together. There's a part in there where I say District 9, we got to take 9. Oh, I know when I said that. It's because an amendment passed for, I feel like they call district liaisons. Maybe they're called community liaisons. All right. There's this amendment that did pass, so it will be going into our budget. And the goal of that amendment was to make sure that there's somebody in a board office that goes out and engages with our PTOs and PTAs and a community, so that we could get those going. And I'll tell you all, not because I don't believe that that's important, but I didn't vote on that one. I voted no on that one. And I explained it to District 9 there, but I'll tell you all here, it's for 3 people. And I said that I think that that's very important. Even in District 9, I want 100% of our PTAs and PTOs to exist, and they don't right now. Some are struggling to come up. Some need support to do it. And so the idea behind this, Chair Jackson introduced it, was so that they could go out and do all the things. And one of the things I said is that with our budget the way it is right now, I do believe in investment, and I do believe that parents are the backbone of what it is that we need. And even engagement, you can look at even these meetings. We see the sometimes the same people that's writing in, and it could be because of time, it could be a lot of things, but we want to engage so that we're doing things differently and collectively. And so what I said is District 9, we're going to take 9. We're going to take this Take 9 challenge. We're going to tell 9 people about it, whether they come or they don't. You get the information to them so that they can absolutely advocate. And I wanted to try to better leverage the partnerships in a community engagement or the community partnerships office or our PCAC who advises. What can we do in order to capitalize on those things that currently exist? So those are some things, not because I don't want you to say what I say. I want you to think in your mind what's most important at this time. And in other people's communities, they might be saying like, hey, we need somebody to go out and do this. Hey, we've got to build a strong board office behind us so we could actually go out and do the work. Whatever piece of the puzzle you believe is what you need to come to the table and say. Okay. And so when you see, I didn't vote for that, that's just an example of one I didn't vote for, but you can go in and see how your board members are representing you, because they are representing you and they're talking on behalf. So they're hearing from pieces of the community and they're saying those things, rightly so. We're elected to talk on your behalf, to do the work for our district, what we think is the best based on what we know, based on our experiences that we bring to the table, based on our constituents who are also inside of the community, based on all of the things. Okay. So it passed. And that's what we're going to move forward with. And so we need to now make the best use of those 3 people to go out and they'll work on that. I know the chair is all over that one there. Now, again, just because the amendments passed right now, you guys, I want you to know that when the reconciliation comes back, we're going to see if all of the positions are still there, because we'll have to tally that back up. Listen, we're 7 minutes over. Candace said board members smartly can engage without adding to the budget. Yes. And I think we need your help to do that, quite frankly. And I agree with you, actually. And I think engage with the community, PTSO, PTSAs, et cetera. There was also in that discussion, board members were saying that it can get, they didn't use the word overwhelming, but I know that it can be a lot. When I tell you, and I know each of you all out in the community know, I know that this thing sometimes is like 50 hours of a 40-hour work week. It really is, especially during legislative season, especially during budget season, especially when you're trying to get out to your communities. And I know even me, some of my schools are like, you haven't been here in a while. And I'm like, listen, I know I'm trying to add it in because it's not a full-time job, but when you're really engaging, and that's why we got to work smarter, not harder. One of the things I'm committed to doing is revamping I have District 9 connectors. And that's a group of people who really I tap into to listen differently, to challenge me on things, to be out in the community, to be voices in the community. And I want to now engage, I will now engage our PTSOs and PTSA leaders to be part of the district non-connectors. And I think that will be really helpful because all of you all get my newsletters, right? And I know you all forward the newsletters, you all talk about what's in there, you all tag me in socials to let me know what's going on in our community. And I love it. But just getting closer to you all and making sure that in these critical times, you're also able to be an intentional voice in what we're doing in District 9 is going to be important. So for these last 2 years of my 4-year term, that is my commitment to the folks looking on. All right, Tay? All right, guys. It is 9:09 and I'll see you next time. Okay. I'll see you at the meeting on the 27th. Don't forget, the meeting is not at the Sasser building. The meeting is at the Wayne Curry Administrative Building. Okay. Wayne Curry Administrative Building. Y'all need to know the address. You could put it in Waze, but because I care for you so much. Let me get it. It's 1301. It just came up. Oh. Here it is. Hold on. Oh my gosh. It was just on here, but why don't I just put it into the, I know, let me look at my calendar. I tell you, I have all these bright ideas and then it takes a minute to get there. The 27th. 1301 McCormick Drive in Largo. Here you go. The meeting will be in person at the Wayne K. Curry Administration Building. Oh, look, there's an end time on here, y'all. Okay. And it's, I didn't know that, 1301 McCormick Drive, Largo. Okay, there you go. The meeting will be in person. Here we go. The meeting will be in person at the Wayne K. Curry Administration Building beginning at 7 p.m. The address is right here, 1301 McCormick Drive. So now we have that on Facebook and on YouTube. Tell a friend, bring a friend, stay involved. All right, see y'all. Bye.